All right, guys, welcome to this week's training. This week, we have why tracking is so important. Oh, it's one of my favorite topics. I talk to at least 5 women a day, probably. I mean, that's the minimum. And most don't track at all, or they track but they're not measuring, which is basically like really not, I mean, it's pretty much like not tracking at all, because if you're not measuring what you're tracking, it's not going to be very accurate. So the biggest thing, why logging, food in a weight loss journey, or even if you're trying to put on muscle, but we're talking about weight loss here. It's just awareness is really everything. And the best ways to gain awareness about your eating habits is through logging food. So hold on a second. Sorry about that. So tracking can provide, insights, reinforce healthy habits, and just make a significant difference in your results. So let's kind of talk first about the benefits of logging your food. So, like I said, creating awareness, what you're eating. So many people underestimate what they eat. All right. There's a lot of data on this. 70, no, sorry, 30 to 70% of women, or I don't even know if it's women, I apologize. I think it's just people. So 30 to 70% of people who don't track overeat. Um, Overeat by 30 to 70%. Sorry, I said that wrong. So if you're not tracking, you're overeating by 30 to 70%. And even they did test like studies with nutritionists or coaches, nutrition coaches, or dietitians, like people in the field. They overate anywhere from 10 to 25%. And these are people like if I don't measure, guys, I overeat. So I am part of that statistic. So it's very easy to overeat because if you look at the servings, I'm gonna start making some videos on these too. Like these little pita chips. 6 chips is a serving. There's like 180 calories for 6 chips. The big thick pita chips. And I go, who eats 6 of these things, right? People devour the whole bag or, a couple handfuls. Like nobody's eating 6. Like they're like crack. They're so good. So measuring for portion control is big. Um, the awareness of like how many calories are in something is, important. Um, I talked to we have a client in our one-on-one program who hasn't been losing much weight. So we spent about a half hour, 40 minutes, and went through her logs and stuff. And I asked her, I said, "Are you measuring?" And she says, "No." And she eats peanut butter. And I know my peanut butter story, I was overeating. So I said to her, "Do you measure your peanut butter?" And she's like, "No." I said, "Do you have a food scale?" She says, "No." Well, she's gonna be overeating. She's not measuring. So I said, "How do you know how much peanut butter you're eating?" I don't. I just put whatever the default is. So the default's a tablespoon. Nobody eats a tablespoon, guys. Tablespoon is like little tiny freaking nothing. So most people are eating 2, 3, 4, 5 tablespoons. So she ordered a scale, and I followed up with her this weekend actually, and I said, and what I had her do is an exercise on recording what she was like recording, like how she thought she was eating, and then actually measuring and recording so that we can see how many calories she's off. And my estimate was 400 to 600 calories. She's eating more than she thinks. And that came from peanut butter and a couple of, she didn't track like her fruits, so she'd make a smoothie and she wouldn't put in like the bananas and the berries. She would just record the protein and the default setting for the peanut butter. So we haven't finished the whole process yet, but her peanut butter was 2.5 times what she thought. So peanut butter 2.5 times is about 350 calories over. So right there, that one change can throw somebody off a calorie deficit. Now you're not losing weight. So it's going to help a ton with portion control. It's going to help identify patterns and triggers. So it allows you to recognize these patterns, things like time of the day, when you tend to overeat, or emotional triggers that lead to these cravings. And if you're journaling these things, it's even more powerful. Foods that leave you feeling sluggish versus foods that make you feel good and energized. Like, note that stuff down. By identifying the patterns, you can make adjustments to better support your journey. All right. It prevents mindless eating. So this is one of the reasons why I track, because if I don't track, man, I am just taking little bites of everything that you can think of. If I'm tracking, I'm not doing that because it's a pain in the ass for me to go in there and put in that I had, a freaking handful of nuts or something. So, and then I got to weigh it. And so I just don't eat it. But if I wasn't tracking, I'd be eating that shit left and right. And that's how you put on weight. It adds up so quickly. So, um, snacking in front of the TV, that's a big one. Um, Finishing up your kids' meals or like picking off their plate at a restaurant or even your husband or your spouse's plate, grabbing handfuls of nuts, like I said, or chips or candy in the office multiple times a day. Just those, BLTs, guys, bites, licks, tastes, they add up so quickly. And if you're not tracking them, forget about it. So it also helps you think before you eat. When you start learning how many calories are in some of these things, you're like, is it worth using my calories on this little thing here? So we talked about staying on track with portion sizes. Uh, be sure to, you know, measure portions accurately. And James just mentioned this to me, and I just started doing it, is he was measuring his protein instead of just taking a scoop. And he said it's not even like what they say a serving isn't even a serving. Plus sometimes it's a little over, sometimes it's a little under, sometimes it's packed down. So I started doing that just for shits and giggles. And yeah, the protein's not wasn't accurate. I used a collagen protein that wasn't accurate. I used like Kako or however you say it, and that wasn't the scoop wasn't accurately a serving size. So I mean, you don't have to get crazy like that, but it's just showing you that. Then I did a cup of almonds last night because I made my own almond milk, which I wish I made a video of it. I finished it today, guys. It's so easy to make almond milk. I'll make a video at some point, but I took a cup of almonds and then I measured it, and a cup of almonds is 180 grams. Well, it was like 215 was a cup. So you can't even go by that. That's why grams is the most accurate way to measure, unless it's like meats. I always measure in ounces. But yeah, just doesn't matter how you measure ounces or grams. Just grams are more accurate for whatever reason. It also helps you, tracking helps you, stick to the right balance of proteins, carbs, and fats. So you could be hitting your calorie goal, but you're super low on protein, or you're not getting enough carbohydrates to optimize or to balance your metabolism and your hormones, fats for brain health. So all these things come into play when you're tracking. It also makes it easier to troubleshoot plateaus because plateaus, I like to say, they almost don't even really exist. There's always a reason why someone's plateauing, and it's just identifying it. A plateau is either you're like, there's a million examples, but there's something that's going on that's causing the plateau. Like it takes 8 weeks for your body to like truly, like 8 weeks of non-results doing all the things, but there's always something we're usually not doing, right? So let's just assume you're in a plateau, a real plateau. A food log can reveal hidden issues. So when I went through this exercise with this woman, it's the same exercise my coach went through me and realized I was overeating protein because it was protein, peanut butter. It was the one thing I wasn't measuring. The other thing that I don't measure sometimes, and I just measured today, is MCT oil. So it's like 90 calories in MCT oil. Well, I usually have, by how much I just pour in my shake, I'm having 2 servings. So when I measured it today, I'm like, oh my God, that's it? So, again, getting back to just the basics. I've put on a little fluff. I got to lose about 3 or 4 pounds. I got a cruise coming up in May, so starting now. Uh, so liquid calories. This is another big one for plateaus. A lot of times people aren't tracking their liquid calories, their alcohol, right, or their sodas or diet sodas or juices. Those things add up. So many people drink their calories and they don't even realize it. All right, another thing we talked about is not eating enough protein, and mindless, just mindless eating more than you think. So with all this data, we make tweaks. So instead of, feeling stuck and frustrated, we actually can identify what's going on and make changes from there. And tracking isn't something you need to do for the rest of your life. That's people like, tracking sucks. Yeah, it sucks at the beginning, but like it's really not that hard. I had a woman just wrote a testimonial. I actually just posted it in the Facebook group. And she said she hated tracking in the beginning. And now she's like, it doesn't even bother me. She's like, it's no big deal. She goes, I just do it now. It's just part of her life. That's what I do. My kids used to say, Dad, you measure everything. Isn't that a pain? It takes me like 2 minutes. Like I throw it on a scale before I eat it. It doesn't take a long time. So you'll get systems too and how to do things quicker. Um, so I think tracking the biggest thing is just, accountability to yourself and consistency. Even if no one else is looking, like you see the calories, so you're less likely to eat something that you know doesn't align with your goals, or at least hope you do. Helps you make smarter food choices. So once you start tracking, you naturally begin to compare food options and choose the better one. So, for example, I just had some elaborate blood work done, and I'm actually going to recommend this company to all you guys if it pans out the way I think it's going to be. I always try everything first before I recommend things. I haven't got all my results in yet, but it's 100 markers, which is very in-depth blood work. It was 30 vials, or 20 vials, sorry. Um, and they check pretty much everything. Well, it gives you a list of foods you should eat or eat more of, don't eat, you shouldn't eat to help with certain markers, what supplements you need. Super informative. And then you get a consultation with somebody that kind of walks you through things. So anyway, one of the foods was to stay away from was whole milk. For whatever reason, they have a reason why everything. I forgot what the reason was. But I was drinking 6 ounces of milk in my shake, whole milk. So going this blood work, I'm now comparing other options. So I don't like just water. I find it kind of plain. And all my milk you buy at a store is just all processed. It's really shitty for you. So I Googled how to make almond milk, and it's so easy. So I made it and put it in my shake today, and it was awesome. So now that's, I was it made me compare, the blood work made me compare, but like when you're entering and you see something high in calories, like what can I have that's similar to this that's lower calories? So, um, like Ezekiel bread over white bread, right? Big difference. Or Dave's Killer bread over white bread. Avocado instead of some processed dressings, or fruit instead of sugary snacks. So you're still getting the same sweet taste from some of these things, but they're in a better form. So that leads to long-term sustainable changes rather than just short-term dieting. All right, I'll blast through these because we've got 5 more minutes here. So the downsides of not logging your food is basically the opposite of everything we just talked about. So you might be overeating without realizing it. And like I said, you probably are by 30 to 70%. Tracking is also a good kind of jumping back is a skill to have so that when you start putting weight back on, because it will happen, you got to dial it back in and start measuring again. So when I put on my whatever 18 pounds I put on 3 years ago, I stopped measuring and my portions get so much bigger. My mashed potatoes get bigger. Everything gets bigger. I never really change my foods. I just eat more of them. So I just started tracking, and then you see, like, oh my God, that's all I get. So like even my rice, I measured my rice yesterday, and I'm like, wow, it's not too much of rice. It's because I'm a diabetic, so rice is good for me, but it does have a lot of carbs, so I have to be careful. So without tracking, it's super easy to underestimate your portions and overeat. And like I said, 200, 300 calories per day more can throw you out of a calorie deficit. It doesn't take much, guys. So if you're in a plateau, you're overeating probably, unless your metabolism's, fall out of whack. That's a whole nother story. But um, downside is harder to identify what's working and what's not working. So it's hard to problem solve. You might fall into a I'm eating healthy, so I should be losing trap. I hear this all the time on my calls. Yeah, I eat really healthy. Well, who's telling you you're eating healthy? That's always my question back. Who's telling you this? And nine times out of 10, it's me. I've done a lot of research. Well, you could be eating healthy foods. I'm not saying you're not, but you can overeat healthy foods too. So quality matters, guys. Calories count, but quality is so important. So like nuts are good for you, right? Avocados are good for you, but you can overeat them really easy. A handful of nuts is what, 200 calories, something like that, 180 calories. So you have a couple handful of nuts and you're only recording one handful, that's another 200 calories that could throw you out of your deficit. So it doesn't take much to put you in a surplus. It's definitely less accountability and awareness when you're not tracking. It can lead to all or nothing mindset. So without tracking, some people swing between like being perfect and completely off track. So logging helps create a balanced approach, and you can kind of fit in treats in moderation while still hitting your goals. So it allows you to kind of put in the foods you still like, as opposed to, just going off and eating these things without even accounting for them. Um, yeah, it can make plateaus feel like a mystery, So again, if you don't have the data, data drives everything, and it just amazes me the lack of data that people have, and they wonder why they're stuck. You know, they don't track their steps, they don't track their water, they don't track their protein, they don't track their calories. Like, how do you know what's going on? It's impossible. Like I can't even help. I mean, I can help someone to a degree without tracking, and you can lose weight without tracking. So don't get me wrong, guys. This isn't a like end all be all, but to really dial in more the most efficient tracking short term is going to be beneficial. And again, you don't have to do this for the rest of your life. Um, and then like without the data, you might feel lost, frustrated, and question if weight loss is even possible for you. It's another thing I hear all the time. My body can't lose weight. It's impossible. I've tried everything. If you tried everything, you would have lost the weight. You didn't try everything. You haven't tried an approach that works for you. You probably have the wrong approach. Not that you're doing on purpose, but if you had the right approach and you knew what you're doing, you'd be losing weight. Like there's no person that can't lose weight unless you have some kind of rare medical thing out there or whatever. So one more minute. This is good. I'll blast through these. Logging food. Um, is it worth it? I would say if you're serious about reaching your goals, tracking your food even temporarily is going to be a game changer for you. It doesn't have to be complicated, and you can just take notes. Some people don't even use an app. I prefer an app because I like just copying my days. It just makes it easier for me. Change my portions quickly. I literally track my food in like two to 3 minutes at night. I'll just put on a little sticky pad and then I go in and just change. So it's super easy. And like I said, you don't have to track forever. Do it for like a minimum a few weeks just to kind of get some knowledge and see what you're taking in. That would be like the minimum time. Make sure you're tracking weekends too. So I have people track Monday through Thursday and they're like, yeah, I'm eating 1,400 calories. Well, show me Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And a lot of times it's, several alcohol beverages. It's going out to eat. It's having appetizers. It's having desserts. Well, guys, that 1,400 with those 3 days just went to 1,700. Just brought up your average because you just destroyed it on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So the averages are what we look at. We don't look at day to day. All right. So if you're Now listen to this. You're feeling stuck. You're frustrated. You're unsure why you're not making progress, then food logging might be the missing piece for you to help you finally break through and reach your goals. So that is it. 1 minute over. You guys have any? I know you guys all log, or you should be logging. Well, I shouldn't say you should be logging. Most of you guys are been with us a while, so maybe you're not logging. I really need this. Back to logging food I go. I needed this today. I haven't tracked in a week or two, maybe three. Yeah, it's all right. Just start tracking again. Start today, you know. It's easy to fall out of it. It's easy to fall out of anything. That's why I work out. The days I tell myself I'm going to work out. Even if I don't feel like it, I just do something. Because for me, if I miss a day or two, man, that can turn into months, years. I mean, I had gyms and stuff. I went 2 years without actually working out like consistently. 'Cause I was so busy taking care of everybody else, making sure the gyms are running properly. And like, I kind of had that mindset where, oh, I'm only getting in a day. What the hell good is that? You know, the all or nothing, right? Like, well, one day is better than no days. So I have to like listen to what what I preach, right? So let's see, Joy. Sometimes I stop eating because when I try to complete the macro requirements, it takes a lot of trial and error when I eat something new. So I ate the same thing for months. That gave me results I wanted. When I don't log a meal, means to say I didn't eat. When I don't log a meal, means to say I didn't eat. So what do you mean? If you don't log it, you mean you didn't eat it? That's like if you don't, if your Fitbit or Apple Watch dies, then the steps don't count. I kind of feel that way sometimes. You know, I'll go for a couple walks and I look and my Fitbit's dead. I'm like, ah, shit. It's like it didn't even count. I really needed this back to logging my food. Thank you. You're welcome, Amy. Yeah, Laura. And not just log, measure. Measuring is the key. So, like this woman that's been with us, she's been with us 3.5 months. And like, I'm not gonna say her name. I'm not picking on her. Like this happens all the time. She hasn't been losing weight. And like, we just assumed she was measuring. Well, that's on us. Like we shouldn't assume. We should be asking those questions. So, um, I mean, she's gonna crush it now if she starts measuring her foods. Peanut butter. It's funny. So that's like the first thing I think of now because that's what my problem was. So now, like, if someone has peanut butter on their food log, I'm like, oh shit. Are you logging your peanut butter or measuring your peanut butter? And almost everybody says no. No, I just take a spoonful. Yeah, well, I know what a spoonful is. It's like 6 spoonfuls splattered in your shake. All right. Any other comments in here? I'll let you guys go. I'm glad this helped, Laura. We're here to help. Imagine like thinking you're eating. So let me do some math here. So 70%, the numbers are 30 to 70% of people overeat if they don't track. So if you think you're eating 1,400 calories times 70% more, that's 2,400 calories. And you think you're eating 1,400 if you're at 70% over. That's massive, guys. Even 30%, 1,400 times 30% is 1,800. So it's 1,820. So it's 420 calories. And that's conservatively that you're eating that you don't think you're eating. And it's not that you're doing it on purpose. You just don't realize it. I don't overeat mashed potatoes on purpose. I just like them. And if I don't measure them, I eat too many of them. I am used working out at the gym, but during the winter season, I work out at home. So do you think it can affect my weight loss journey? No. I mean, if you're working out at home just as hard as you are at the gym, there's no difference. I work out harder in the gym, me personally, because we don't have enough weights. Not that, not that I'm some huge, massive guy, but we only have dumbbells up to I think we got 50s or 55s in there. That's not enough on certain exercises, so I have to go to the gym to be able to challenge myself. Same thing with legs. Like I don't have much leg equipment here, and I can't do squats because of my back, so I'm very limited. So I get more out of the gym. But no, if you're training just as hard at home, you're fine. It's so people always say, what's the best exercise or what's the best cardio exercise? The answer is the one that you're gonna actually do. Like there's no magic, like a treadmill's not better than elliptical, or elliptical is not better than a rower. It's whatever one you put the most effort into. So if you're walking on a treadmill on a big incline, or you're on elliptical, just kind of going nice and slow, the treadmill's gonna be better. If the treadmill's flat and you're barely moving, and the elliptical, you're going balls to the wall like crazy, the elliptical is gonna be better for you. So there's no like, for me, it's the air bike. That thing crushes me. I mean, I put everything I have into it, either that or the stair climber. Those two things kick my ass, and I don't have to do them that long. That's why I like it. I do 10 minutes on those things, like full steam ahead, and I'm toast. Even the rower, too, crushes me. Like a treadmill, I don't run. I'm not a runner, so treadmills are good for walking, but I don't know. Treadmills don't do it for me. I'm meeting with a personal trainer tomorrow. All right, let's go. She's going to try to help me get all the muscles in my hip glutes working again. So make sure she's good, Laura, because that's our specialty, what you're looking for there. That may be more of a really good physical therapist. So physical therapists that look at your movement patterns. So if this trainer, don't ask her to do this because you want to give her a little test. If she doesn't do a functional movement screen with you, probably not going to be the best coach for you because she has no idea like what muscles are not firing. She can't see where your deficiencies are as far as movement patterns. So she should take you through an assessment. If she doesn't take you through an assessment, they had to release me insurance. Yeah, but there's Pete like there's traditional. I don't know what one you're doing. Like there's traditional and there's like biosynchronistics, which is like looking at movement patterns, seeing how your body moves. Like I went in for my shoulder and they worked on my ankles. Like because my movement of my ankles was affecting my shoulders. Like who the hell knows that shit? Like Jen, my wife's really good at this stuff. I can't like I wouldn't have any idea my shoulder hurts. My freaking ankles were too tight. So I had to do ankle mobility stuff to help my shoulder. So that's what I mean by a good PT. They find out what's causing the issues. So everything's connected in our bodies. So ankle stiffness it creates a lot of movement deficiencies in our bodies. I learned that because I have terrible ankle mobility from all the ankle sprains I had in soccer. So PT, if they just do traditional stuff, like you're doing like band work for shoulders and like maybe some bands for your hip, like they're not probably look like I'd say the new age. Like there's the old school traditional PTs that just kind of, oh, your shoulder hurts, do this, do this, do this. Where biosynchronistics or someone that looks at movement patterns. So when I went to my PT, they did a 2 hour evaluation on me, all movements. I just moved doing all this crazy shit for 2 hours. And had one person taking notes, one person had me do a thing. It was crazy. And like Jen went through this, her butt cheeks, her glutes didn't fire properly. So they say they had her like rolling around on the ground and doing all this crazy shit. I used to walk in on, I'm like, what the hell are you doing? So that's what the PT has me doing. Because her butt wasn't firing. So when your butt's not firing, your glute's not firing, it causes issues other places. So like we would have never known that without going to this PT. So just be careful. Trainers are good. You just need the right one. And I'm telling you right now, if they don't do a functional movement screen with you or any type of movement screen, I'd look for another trainer. Because it's like that's like a disservice to you. Like how can you put a program together for someone if you don't see how they move? Like we're not gonna load up an exercise like load up your squat if you don't squat properly. You're gonna get hurt. So movement patterns, everything. You move well first, then you load and add weight. You don't add weight until you move properly. All right, this is from my 25 years in the gym business. All right. Anything else? I don't want to discourage you, Laura. I think that's awesome you're doing that. Just make sure they're good. Because you get what you pay for in anything. Like I had someone I talked to that was paying 20 bucks an hour for a trainer. Oh my God. Like if I wouldn't hire a trainer that's 20 bucks an hour, to me, that tells me that they're not very good. Like if you think your services are only worth 20 bucks for an hour of your time, like I don't know. Like personal training around here for a decent trainer, like a, a decent trainer, like a good quality trainer, it was like 100 bucks an hour. Um, Jen, my wife could charge 150 or 200 bucks an hour all day long with her knowledge and what she does for people. She was on her own. She works for a gym, so she can't do that. But I think the gym's 100 bucks an hour, and half hours are like 50 bucks. And half hours, Laura, are probably all you'll need initially. So don't get sucked into an hour. You can probably get what you need done in a half hour. So I'd rather have you work out 2 half hours a week with a coach or a trainer than 1 hour because you're getting two different days and consistency and movements in. Yeah, 30 minutes, good. Perfecto. Did you already meet with a trainer, Laura? Just curious. Tomorrow. Yeah. So usually the first day is just like I mean, I'm just going by how we do it and gyms around here do it. Other states it might be different, but here we usually sit down with a client. We'll meet. We call it a meet and greet. You just kind of sit down, find out your goals, what you're looking for, what type of challenge you're having, blah blah blah. And then the next appointment we set up, we go through a whole half hour functional movement screen, sometimes 45 minutes. And then the third is an actual customized program for you. Now you could do the meet and greet and a movement pattern in 1 hour if you wanted to. We just did it two separate ones. I talked to her on the phone. Yeah. So when you meet her, and plus you want to like the person too. Like she could be like a genius, but if your personalities don't match, you're gonna dread going in there too. So there's a lot of little nuances. Google like what questions to ask your personal trainer or looking for a new personal trainer, what questions to ask. Google will give you something. You can, because I mean, personal training is expensive. It's not expensive if it works, but it's expensive relative to what you're getting. So you want to make sure you get the right person. It's definitely an investment. All right, awesome, guys. We'll have an amazing Monday, and we will see you all next week. Talk to you soon. Laura, shoot me a message too and let me know how it goes with the trainer. I'd be very interested to hear. Bye, guys.